Welcome back, class. We'll now be discussing Chapter 5 Sex, Gender, and Sexuality. We start off by going over a couple of terms sex. In psychology, the biologically influenced characteristics by which people define males and females, the biological fact of sex. Gender. In psychology, the socially influenced characteristics by which people define men and women. Gender is the product of the interplay among our biological dispositions, our developmental experiences, and our current situations. How are we alike and how do we differ? Each person receives 23 chromosomes from the mother and 23 from the father. Of these 46 chromosomes, 45 are shared by men and women. Some similarities: creativity, intelligence, emotions. Our quote opposite unquote sex is in reality our very similar sex. Some differences are in self esteem, puberty age, and emotional expression. Well, how do we differ? And one area of difference is aggression. First, what is aggression? Any physical or verbal behavior intended to harm someone physically or emotionally. Relational aggression is an act of aggression, physical or verbal, intended to harm a person's relationship or social standing. So, minor physical aggression in romantic relationships, men and women are roughly equal. Extreme violent acts, however, men commit far more often than do women. Relational aggression. Women commit slightly more often than men do. Now, when it comes to relational aggression, women have normally more quality types of relationships. They rely on relationships more often than men do. So, one way that women, girls, can be hurt is by hurting their relationships. So, social connectedness. Boys and men are often independent, whereas girls and women are more often interdependent. Men tend to connect perception with action. Women tend to improve social relationships. Men often prefer working with things. Women often prefer working with people. Men are more often driven by money and status. Women often opt for fewer work hours and tend to have greater responsibility for family obligations. Women more often support others. They tend and befriend. And these differences tend to subside by age 50. Biology does not dictate gender, but it can influence it in two ways. First, we have genetically. Males and females have differing sex chromosomes. They're the same except for one chromosome, the sex chromosome. Physiologically, males and females have differing concentrations of sex hormones, which trigger other anatomic and biological differences. Prenatal sexual development. The contribution to the 23rd chromosome pair, mother has the X chromosome, and the father can contribute either the X or the Y chromosome. Around the seventh week of pregnancy, the Y chromosome prompts testes to develop and produce testosterone. Between the fourth and fifth months, sex hormones and fetal brain support female or male wiring. So the sex hormone during the fourth and fifth months will have some influence on fetal brain development, either wiring the brain more in a female fashion or wiring the brain in a more male fashion. So, an X chromosome from each parent produces a female child, and a Y chromosome paired with an X chromosome produces a male child. So, X chromosome, the sex chromosome, is found in both men and women. The Y chromosome, the sex chromosome, is found only in males. So, testosterone. Both males and females have it, but females have less testosterone. The additional testosterone in males stimulates the growth of the male sex organs in the fetus and the development of male sex characteristics during puberty. Adolescent sexual development. During adolescence, boys and girls enter puberty and mature sexually. Puberty is a period of sexual maturation during which a person becomes capable of reproducing. A surge of hormones triggers a 2 year period of rapid physical development where primary and secondary sex characteristics develop dramatically. Primary sex characteristics are those characteristics that are directly involved in reproduction. Secondary sex characteristics are not directly involved in reproduction. These are ways in which we normally will be able to tell the difference between someone who is male and someone who is female. Now, you may recall when you were younger and started going through puberty that first, females will enter puberty first. Girls have an earlier pubertal growth spurt, so they will tend to grow faster and taller and develop more physically as an adult develops, more so than their male counterparts. So, here, according to this particular slide, we can see that puberty can start as early as 11 years old or so, which will then allow the females to be taller at one point than compared to the average male counterpart. Later, boys will begin their puberty spurt, and it will continue on until, on average, they will be taller than their female counterparts. So, throughout childhood, boys and girls are going to be similar in height, but at puberty, girls surge ahead briefly, but then boys overtake them at about age 14. So, let's go into details about these other factors that happen when we develop physically when it comes to our sex. Primary sex characteristics, body structure such as ovaries, testes, and external genitalia that make sexual reproduction possible. And secondary sex characteristics are the non reproductive sexual traits such as female breasts and hips, male voice quality, and body hair. We also see such factors as the first ejaculation and first menstrual period will also occur during these phases. So here are some of the body changes at puberty. We have undergrowth hair growth, breast development, enlargement of uterus, beginning of menstruation and pubic hair, adrenal glands and ovaries, pituitary gland releases the hormones that stimulate these, for females, and for males we have facial and underarm hair growth, larynx enlargement for voice sound, pubic hair growth, the growth of penis and testes, and the beginning of ejaculation. We also see the adrenal glands and testes being controlled by the pituitary gland that stimulate their growth as being part of the endocrine system. I am who I am. Not all sexual development occurs normally. Sometimes things happen that will make it very unclear as to whether or not someone is clearly identified as a male or clearly and easily identified as a female. So there's a disorder of sexual development, a condition present at birth that involves unusual development of sex chromosomes and anatomy. This can result in some for sex reassignment surgery, which is more common in the past and can create some distress for some. So we have the dramatic improvements in the South African track star. Their race times improved dramatically, and the International Association of Athletics Federations, they began to ask questions about was she male or female, and they began to do sex testing in 2009. Well, with Semenya, it was reported to have a disorder of sexual development with physical characteristics not typically male or female. She was officially cleared to continue competing as a woman. She declared, God made me the way I am, and I accept myself. I am who I am. Sex-related genes and physiology results in behavioral and cognitive differences between males and females, yet environmental factors may play a role as well. So we have individuals that exist which are males and females clearly identified as one sex or another, but we also have individuals who are identified as intersex, sort of in between the two, because they can possess characteristics of both males and females. Then we have the nurture of gender, our culture and experiences. Gender role. First, what is a role? A role is a set of expectations or norms about a social position. A gender role is a set of expected behaviors, attitudes, and traits for males or for females. So basically, our society may have certain expectations as to what boys do and men, what girls do and women, our gender role. Then we have gender identity. Our gender identity is our personal sense of being male, female, or some combination of the two. So, gender roles shift over time in history. A century ago, American women could not vote in national elections. They could not serve in the military or divorce a husband without cause. So, the gender role, the expected role of gender changed over time when it comes to what females, what women can do. Serve the military, vote for president of the United States, or divorce their spouse without cause. Gender roles vary from one place to another. Nomadic societies of food gathering people have little division of labor by sex. Therefore, they may not have as strong gender roles as others would. Agricultural societies, in which women typically work in the nearby fields and men roam while herding livestock, assume more distinct gender roles based on the needs of their particular type of society. So, how do we learn our gender? How do we learn our gender identity? Our personal sense of being male or female, or occasionally some combination of the two? Well, we have social learning theory. Proposes social behavior is learned by observing and imitating others' gender linked behavior and being rewarded or punished. Gender typing is the acquisition of a traditional masculine or feminine role. It varies from child to child, which indicates there is more gender typing than solely observation and imitation. If you hang around any children at all, you can know when you have a conversation with them that they do have, at a very early age, a sense of what is boy stuff and what is girl stuff. So, whatever this is, it's being communicated rather early in our growth and in our life. Learning to be male and or female involves feeling and thinking. The formation of schemas helps children make sense of their world. They establish gender schemas from early in life and organize experiences of male and female characteristics. Those toys are for boys, or those toys are for girls. Gender expression can be seen as children drop hints in their language, clothing, interest, and possessions. But there are some other things that we need to talk about when it comes to learning gender. We have androgyny. Androgyny, displaying both traditional masculine and feminine psychological characteristics. And we also have transgender. Transgender is a global umbrella term describing people whose gender identity or expression differs from that associated with their birth sex. So, what this basically means is individuals who were born male but have their gender identity more associated or more aligned with female, or vice versa, where we have a female whose gender identity is more aligned or more associated with male, transgender. People whose gender identity or expression differs from that associated with their birth sex. Hormones and sexual behavior. Well, asexuality is having no sexual attraction to others. Asexual, no sexual attraction. Sex hormones are one of the forces that drive our sexual behavior. Testosterone, which I'm sure you've heard of before, is the most important male sex hormone. It is found in both males and females. The additional testosterone in males stimulates growth of the male sex organs during fetal period and the development of male sex characteristics during puberty. Estrogens, or sex hormones, such as estradiol, that are secreted in greater amounts by females than by males, contribute to female sex characteristics. In non human female mammals, estrogen levels peak during ovulation, promoting sexual receptivity. Large hormonal surges or declines tend to occur at two predictable points in the lifespan. The pubertal stage surge triggers the development of the sex characteristics and an increased amount of sexual interest. In later life, hormone levels fall, with women experiencing menopause and men a more gradual change in this area. A third point sometimes occurs. For some people, surgery or drugs may cause these hormonal shifts.